Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. You know, I am a voracious reader. I am never not reading a book, typically a book about rock or horror movies as well, or magazines. I have an archive. I have like every Cream and Circus magazine hit parader from back in the day. I read them then. I kept them. I still go back and read them. Classic Rock Magazine, Rolling Stone, Mojo, Q. I've spent a lifetime reading and I love it and I still do it. So, I'm going to do a book review today because I just finished this book, The Who and Quadrophenia, by the legendary author Martin Popoff. Now, I discovered Martin Popoff. This was the first book I ever had by him, and I still use it a lot. The Southern Rock Review, which is like an anthology where he reviews a lot of Southern rock albums, does a pretty quick review with a rating system. And when I want to discover a new Southern rock band that I might not know, I will use that as a resource. If you don't know Martin Popoff, he's probably the most successful popular music writer ever. I mean, the guy literally puts out, I feel like he puts out a new book like a week. It's extraordinary. He's a great writer. He's got a great podcast. I know he is on Sea Tranquility, which I enjoy watching. I have a lot of respect for the guy. Anyway, he put out this book recently, and I showed you when I got it. I got it for the holidays, and it comes in a really nice slipcase, and it's The Who and Quadrophenia by Martin Popoff. Now, if you know me and my channel, Quadrophenia is my favorite Who album. Here's the Uber Director's Cut massive box set. Have it on vinyl when it came out. And there's the original CD version. Here's a digitally remastered CD version with bonus tracks and demos. Here's the movie soundtrack. Here's the DVD. Yeah, I've been listening to Quadrophenia my whole life, and it is my favorite Who album. It's in the top choice of amongst the top of my all-time favorite albums by anybody, favorite double albums. It's in a lot of my videos. So I was very excited to get this book. So let me open it up. First of all, it comes in a big box, and then you take it out of the box, and then you get the actual book itself, which frankly is not quite as impressive, but it's still a beautiful book. Here's the cover, and let me kind of show it to you a little bit. And what you're going to find, it's a really nicely presented book. It's got loads of beautiful photographs, as you can see. Really nice photographs. Lots of photographs. You know, reproduction of singles. And he really covers the whole history. You know, there's a chapter, he talks about the Who before Quadrophenia briefly, and then, you know, covers mods versus rockers, the background of it, and the riots at Brighton and other places. There's Chris Stamp and Kit Lampert, their original managers, and, you know, working their way up to Quadrophenia and a little bit on Tommy. And you get into Quadrophenia, and you can see there's a little chapter right there, concept albums versus rock opera, and shows you a couple of other, you know, concept type albums. And then this is nice. He goes into every song on Quadrophenia, you know, a couple of paragraphs typically, and there's a story on the graphics because Quadrophenia came with that amazing booklet. And, you know, there's a little bit on each of the four members of the Who, you know, because Jimmy is the lead character of Quadrophenia has four personalities, and each is basically based on each of the members of the Who. So you can kind of see it's a beautifully presented book. Lots and lots of big pictures and glossy. And, you know, he covers it. After he talks about the album, talks a little bit about the chart position, the sales of it, and then he goes into the Quadrophenia movie and even a bit on the mod reunion, you know, led by the Jam and other mod bands at that time. And there's, you know, the love story in Quadrophenia. You know, a lot of work went into this book. You know, beautiful graphics. As you can see, there's the mod revival with the Jam. And a little bit on Tommy and the concept albums with The Who. And then ever since then that they've toured Quadrophenia a few times. And the whole book is about 177 pages. Again, beautifully presented, as you can see. And by Martin Popoff. It is a really, really fast read. I tend to be a slow reader. I really read slow and absorb it. But I could have read this book in one night, pretty much. Because his writing style is really good. It's short, it's breezy, it's good fluid writing. He's a great writer, and he's got a lot of good books. I actually read, the book I read before this, Martin Popoff, was Doom Let Loose, I think was what it was. It was like a history of Black Sabbath. Now, I don't know a lot about Black Sabbath, so I was really psyched to read that. I have their classic albums, but I really am not a student of them, even though I have their albums. And he's a huge Black Sabbath fan, Martin Popoff, and I read that book. And my reaction to that book was kind of the reaction to this book. I don't think it's Martin, and I don't want to criticize him because you don't want to criticize the guy who's like the most successful writer in rock and roll probably of all time. But I think it's more of what he is told to do by the book publishers, and you can kind of see it here. So when you buy this book, man, this book looks really impressive in the bookstore. Look at that. You know, it's huge, right? But look at how big this slipcase is, and then when you take it out, you know, and I just showed you, this is a beautifully presented book, but the amount of writing in this book is not that much, you know, and I think that's what he is told, that you have X amount of words to cover this whole story, and he does a fabulous, fabulous job with that. He really covers the whole history, but it's really brief. It kind of reminds me of when I was a kid, you could either read a book, and I would read the book, or when you were in school, or you could read like, what were they called, crib notes, you know, these really short. It's kind of like that. You know, he will cover a whole topic in like a sentence or two, and then go on next. And he covers it, but it depends what you want to read. I really enjoyed this book, but I am a student of The Who and Quadrophenia. I didn't learn anything in this book that I didn't know, but I'm a big student of it. You know, if you want to learn about Quadrophenia in depth, you know, there was a book by Simon Wells called, another excellent writer, and he wrote a book, The Making of Quadrophenia, which is about the film. Man, it's a paperback, but it's big, and that really goes into detail. This is surface stuff, you know. So if you're not a student of Quadrophenia, if you're not really that big of a student of The Who, this is the perfect book. And again, the graphics are beautiful. It's a beautifully done book. And I'm not sorry I have it, and I'm not sorry that I read it, and I will keep it, because a lot of the books I don't keep, but I'll keep this one. But really, it's like a very surface book, which leads me to my criticism. There's nothing wrong with that. The criticism I have is that this book, you can't see it here, this book is $50. $50 to me is a lot of money. And this is another example, and I see this more and more in publishing. There it is, $50. You see it more and more in publishing. You see it more and more even in some box sets. I call it, it's more sizzle than steak. This is a real sizzle job, great photographs. Do I really need this thing? Really? No. This is the whole book, and when you take this book out, you can go to Barnes & Nobles, and they have these books. They kind of almost look like this. They have a certain look. And there used to be like a section for overstocks. They're not overstocks. They're just like cheap books. And this is that kind of, it's a lot of photographs. These books have not a lot of writing. They don't go in depth. They just kind of cover the surface. And that's what this is. So if you don't know The Who, you don't know Quadrophenia, and you want to learn, in 2 days you could read that book and have a lot of great pictures, that's the perfect book for you. But for somebody like me, you know, that should be a $20 book with the amount of information that is really there. I'm going to show you an example. Here's another book that I got. I haven't read this one yet. Jethro Tull Chronicles. This covers 12 years of Jethro Tull. Now, this is by Laura Shenton. And if you compare knowledge, if you want to go to school on Jethro Tull, this book has great pictures, but look at the amount of text. Now, some of you are going to say, well, I don't have the patience. I don't want to read that. And I totally get that. If you want a brief crib notes of a band, that's the book to get. But, for $50, I want a deep dive. And, I don't need a book for $50 of a lot of great pictures that I've seen or they're out there. Just my take. I mean, there's more words on 4 pages in that book than in that whole book. Now, it's not a criticism of Martin Popoff. He clearly could write a book like that. But I don't think that's the job that he gets from the publishers. I think they clearly say, this is the size of the book. We're putting it in a really fancy slipcase. We're going to sell it for $50, and you have X amount of words to cover the whole story, which is not easy to do, and he does it in a phenomenal way. But, I have mixed feelings, as you can tell. So that's my review of The Who and Quadrophenia from the great Martin Popoff, because he is great. But I kind of felt the same way with that Sabbath book. He covered so much ground, and it's quick. My personality, I want to get into the mud. I want to know the details. I want to really learn something. And but I'm a rarity. I guess most people don't know a lot about Quadrophenia, and or maybe The Who, and that's a great crib note. You could read that a couple days and learn what you need to know. Anyway, there's my review of The Who and Quadrophenia by Martin Popoff. Again, for what it does it really, really well. For $50 for me, I need a little bit more. But what can I tell you? That's my review. Let me know what you think if you've read this book or you plan on reading it. But this mega box here from Pete Townsend really goes into a lot of detail. Anyway, enough. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts. If you're new, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the Alan Rosenberg Show.